Okay, so today, this week, we are doing something different. I recently wrote this blog post called The Invisible Curriculum of Research, the research iceberg, right? What you see on top of water is like courses you take for your PhD, the papers you produce, the conferences you go, but below the iceberg is the big thing, like the foundational things. I tried to make it with five C's, like curiosity, which is basically curiosity slash taste, clarity, which is basically questions. How do you ask good questions to clarify things, get to the root of research problems, and even frame things. Craft, you need craft. You need a lot of hard work, and by craft, it's paper writing, experiment work, and community, people skills, and you know, um, are you part of the community? Are you being good citizen there, and are you also helping improve the community? And finally, courage and resilience, basically. How do you be sort of respectful with your community, but also challenge your community to grow, have the courage to push it to any direction. So we just thought that maybe just ramble this week on that. And we also thought that maybe what would be the advice we would give PhD students? Aleksey, yeah.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. Uh, it's a really interesting topic, right? Like, um, and I think like to actually start like getting into like the depths of this, right? Is we need to answer what PhD is. Like, what's the aim of doing PhD, right? And you know I think the aim of doing PhD is actually like more, towards those five C's, right? It's not the technical skills as much. It's kind of it's learning anything that is not technical, right? I have excellent undergraduate students who have like technical skills that, like, I mean, I'm jealous of, right? But yeah, but they still have like a lot to learn on the non-technical part.
I love it. I think what you're saying is the product of a PhD is not the PhD thesis or like three papers, five papers you wrote. The product is you, basically, the researcher, which all comes from these five C's. How did you grow? Like there was also anecdotes I wrote about, what's the point of a PhD with this like even kung fu master sort of. Uh, so it's basically it's a funny one. You can find it in my blog. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I remember something like this, but
There's the
hmm.
what's the point of PhD? And it says, it's culmination of my hard work. And he says,
Uh,
go
uh,
back, come back in a year. It's this, and then it says it's the finally after 3 years. The guy says it's the start of a journey. It's like
yeah.
in this discipline that I raised, how do I grow more and help others? And he says, now you pass. So that's one lesson. The second lesson is that this is uh, the joke people tell is that the real lesson is if that guy asked to somebody who graduated earlier, he could have graduated 3 years earlier. So you go through a PhD and the product is you and you are ready when it's ready. But I love that framing.
Yeah, yeah. It's a process, right? And this, like, you cannot rush through this process. Like, it has to be a long process, right? Because it's supposed to break you,
Hmm.
and then kind of reassemble like a new you, as a researcher that has, that resilience, right? That knows how to ask the questions, that knows like where to focus and what not to like focus on, right?
Hmm.
It's a person who knows how to like be really good at priorities, right?
Yeah.
So like all of these are really not technical skills. You can be like you can be a really good coder, right? Or really good at math or whatnot, right? But it's not enough. You can just be deep down into like doing something, working on one thing that you find interesting and no one else finds interesting, that you know,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's not like what we're
perfect.
trying to achieve,
You are
right?
leading us into the first one, actually, the taste. We cannot define taste, and you learn the taste over time. So, what is
Yeah.
taste? Do you think you can teach taste, or do you think it's inborn and some students are really good, and some students it's very hard to teach, or some students don't get? What do you think? I guess
Yeah,
what is like part creativity, part curiosity, part asking the right questions. Um, I mean, I guess there is other part of it. You said that with skills, you could be a good coder. You also need to grow as a writer. I think a big
yeah,
outcome, the big product is you as also a writer. But maybe we can discuss it in craft. Maybe that's more craft. But you pulled us into the taste discussion. So, what do you think taste is? Can it be taught? And it's also sort of relative, I guess. What's tasteful
yeah,
in
yeah.
theory would be different in
But
systems. But
yeah,
I also suspect some people are really good at it, and maybe it's very hard to teach other people. This is what I observed, both as PhD student and
yeah,
advisor.
yeah, yeah. I think it comes hand in hand with the curiosity aspect of it, right?
Mhm.
Like because if you're curious, like you could be curious about something, right? And obviously it's only important to you, right? And there is still this aspect of like curiosity to it, right? But um yeah, it's a hard question to be honest. I don't know. Um I do know that it doesn't come easy, right? So I do see that students, people, they like to focus on something and they kind of dig
Mhm.
themselves like very deep into maybe the things that I would not consider it important, right?
Mhm.
So I have students who like really like to go very deep into the technical aspects of things, right? And as they do, they forget like the big picture of why we're trying to accomplish this, right? Like, well, what is the big goal of the problem they're trying to solve, right? And in a way that does kind of you know play around the taste problem, right? To me, my taste is to try to solve higher level problems, like focus on bigger things, right? And things like implementation details, so like technical nitty-gritty. I mean, the technology changes too quickly. Like I'm not sure it's that interesting, but that's my taste, right?
Alexei, yeah, it's very closely related to curiosity. I had a student. He was interested in a topic which it was not related to what we were thinking about, and it was also foreign to me. It wasn't in my expertise. He wanted to work on queuing theory. So this worked on queuing theory. Later, it became very relevant to our paper. This the basically the analyzing the performance bottlenecks of a Paxos paper, which made the theoretical part, and later this student made queuing theory basically his career work, applying it to metastability
Yeah,
phases.
I
When
wonder
this
who that
student
is.
came to me, I said, "Okay, yeah, take 3 months." Do whatever you like in queuing theory, and if it works, we can talk. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that student just wrote some blog posts and that's about it.
What? Which was did you at that time really?
Yeah, yeah. I blogged about like model and performance of multi-access,
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
that like what went into the paper.
Yeah, yeah, I know, no, no.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
initially you came to me, you said, I like queuing theory, it could be applicable here, and I have no idea. And I said, but I saw that you were very interested in it,
Yeah,
curious. I
no,
said, okay,
but you
go.
see, like we had a very practical question to answer, and that was a tool because we were thinking about kind of napkin math
Yeah.
calculations for all of this like state machine replication protocols and how they behave, like what's their performance, what's their latencies and whatnot, right? And in that aspect, like Q in theory was just an answer or one possible avenue to try to answer that question, right?
But you had some interest in it, and
Yeah,
to me it came from out of the blue. But you
yeah,
were interested, and I think in my PhD, I also just for one thing I got interested in refinements, and then got a good angle there, and had the first part of my PhD thesis on grayback stabilization. Um, and refinements based on that. It's like passion is important in
yeah,
PhD. Like
yeah.
you
I
should
mean,
be.
without passion, you cannot complete it, right? Because like the academic world is so brutal, right?
Yeah,
The publication world is so brutal. If you are not passionate,
yeah, yeah.
you're like
I
passionate and resilient, right? You're not gonna make it.
right. We could have a long discussion. Maybe if
Yeah.
we rush it, we could have it in 10 minutes, but maybe we shouldn't get into the should you
Yeah.
do PhD? Like, what are the right reasons to do PhD? Money is not the right reason, or you know, uh, yeah.
I mean,
What?
as I said, like if you want to suffer, right, it will break you and it will rebuild you. If you want to suffer,
Yeah.
yeah, PhD is for you.
Why did you want to do PhD, Alexei?
Ah, do, oh boy, that's a good question. I didn't,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
So, like when I like when I have to answer this question, right? I tell people that I am actually one of the laziest, hardworking people like you've ever seen. Like I never refuse work, right? Like
mhm,
especially if it's like interesting work, right? So
mhm.
like I will work on problems because I like them, right? But I also kind of I'm lazy. Like I am not going to do things that I'm not as interested.
Yeah.
Which means that like I'm trying to kind of take the path of least resistance,
Mhm.
right? So
Okay.
back in but back when I was like yeah, my family like moved to the US when I was in high school, right? So I kind of had to finish, high school here, and that was like a very traumatizing experience.
Mm,
Right. And, I'm an introvert. I had some friends, back home. I lost them, right? Distance and whatnot, and I'm like placed in this new environment, and it wasn't really a good environment. Wasn't really a good high school, right? So I was placed in an environment that didn't like encourage any academic growth, so to speak, right? So I didn't want to go to college, right? So I knew how to code. I like coding. That was like the passive least resistance for me. And I didn't really want to go to college, but again, the passive least resistance with my parents was to actually apply to college, right? So I went to
mhm,
a local university,
mhm,
trying to get my bachelor's so that I have a piece of paper and go work.
mhm, mhm,
Like never meant to do grad school, right? That was not in a passive least resistance. And I worked like I would go to I would go to college, right? Do my full-time studies. The college was 30 miles away, the university was 30 miles away from home. I would come home and I would go to work. I worked at the grocery store doing all kinds of like nasty jobs.
mhm,
Right? And I would pull like 35 hours a week, like working, cleaning grocery store essentially at night. Right.
mhm,
So at the very bottom of uh, social ladder, so to speak. And yeah, when I was sophomore, I started coding for money. Like I found this guy who was hiring some college students for very cheap to do some like very like trivial coding.
mhm.
And by the time I was a junior, I quit, the grocery store because I was working full time for the guy.
It
Um,
pays better and
I mean, he wasn't paying.
less like breaking work. Mhm,
Yeah, it was a better job. I wouldn't say that he necessarily paid a lot better, right? But it was a much better job,
mhm,
and way more like fun job, way more interesting job. And but again, like I never refused work. So like at the same time, I also was the programmer for the university school newspaper.
Hmm.
And and again,
Newspapers.
yeah,
Okay.
like and doing the website for the university's newspaper, like student-run newspaper, right? And like I was busy, so and lazy, and I totally
Mm.
forgot to register for one required class, without which I cannot take the next class in the sequence, and then I would not graduate. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
you told me this story. You had to then you said, okay, I will also do masters while I'm there.
exactly.
Go ahead, go
So
ahead.
so I enrolled. I went to the guidance counselor, advisor, whatnot, and I asked her, well, I know we have this accelerated master's program. If I take this class as a master class, if I enroll in this program and take this class, like, will it count towards my undergrad? And she was like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, great. Count me in, enroll me in. So they signed me up. I had to take a GRE, which was just formality, right?
Mhm,
And I took this one class as a graduate student in the accelerated master's program. I,
mhm,
Again, it was never my intention to really like go through, right, with getting a master's degree. But the next semester, I was actually a semester after that. So the first semester of my senior year in college, um, I, uh,
mhm,
I took one extra class just to make sure that I have enough credits, to graduate next semester, right?
mhm,
And that class was music informatics, and I'm not a musical
mhm,
person, right?
mhm,
So I decided to actually not go to this class. I left school because that class was late at night at 6 p.m. So I left school. I started driving out of campus, and on the very first like lecture before attending that class,
mhm.
and then something, like I don't know, I don't know what it was, right? But I turned around. I made a U-turn, parked the car back, and went back to that class, saying that, well, I need to at least like give it a shot, like attend this music informatics class that I'm not like interested at all because I don't like music, right? But I parked the car, waited another hour, got to class, sit through the class, confirmed my suspicion that I'm not going to enjoy the class, most likely. And I was leaving the class, and then the professor stopped me, like by name, saying, "Hey, Aleksey, can I talk to you for a second?" And this is where, like, the part where I never refuse a job comes in again,
Okay.
because she said that, oh, you're like accelerated master student, and I'm like, yeah, technically, like, that's not the purpose of it for me, but technically I am. And she said that, some other professor, talked really like nicely about me and recommended me as maybe like becoming a research assistant, and she had some uh,
Mm.
money to burn.
Very good.
So she kind of offered me, a job for money, doing research with her. I
Mm.
don't refuse the job, right?
Oh,
So I said, sure, right? And that's how I stayed in that class, and that's how I actually did music information retrieval for my master's,
mhm.
research work, right?
Then you got hooked into research and then you decided to go for PhD.
Yeah, I mean, I was working full time, and between the two things, research was way more fun, right?
Yeah.
So again, like taking the path of least resistance, what is more fun?
Mhm,
What I will enjoy doing, like in the long term. I took that path, right? So I applied to PhD programs again in a very lazy way. Everything was done last minute, so I forgot to retake the GRE scores, so they were whatever they were, not really good. Uh, and that's how I ended up with you.
Oh, you turned your way into PhD. Wow, what a
Yeah.
fateful day.
But yeah, like it was never my plan, right? But
Mm,
the combination of like I don't know what happened to make a U-turn, me not refusing the job, and then
that's
actually being lucky to have like a really good master mentor
yeah,
who
right.
who did like
Yeah.
do research with me, right? So we worked on like straight away we worked on a paper. I did some experiment for her, wrote maybe like half a page, and then she dragged me to my first conference, right,
Mm,
where we had to present that paper. That was again like a big experience, right? But yeah, I'm just like thankful to a mentor who showed me what research is before I guess it was too late.
Cool, that's awesome. There is also a craft part. You were a good coder. You got a reference to that professor, so she worked with you, and curiosity part, community part. Yeah, it's beautiful story. I think for me, I always wanted to become a professor. Yeah, I don't know. It's it. I think I liked questions and research, and after finishing, people went into jobs, and I never even
Yeah,
considered it. I just applied for teaching assistantship in my university, stayed there. Then there was a, I won an exam for getting what is it called, financial aid for studying abroad, and so I hopped on. And came to US, Ohio State University. I think even as an undergrad student, I could see my taste for distributed systems developing. I really liked the algorithms class. I did extra work, like,
yeah.
and um, for that. And then when I started my TA position, I've wanted to do some uh, logic and apply it to some distributed systems. Took on a book I couldn't follow much, but I was studying it at night. And oh, another interesting thing is I took logic class both in high school, which I loved, and then in college, I also took a logic class, and I
Mm.
really liked it. So I already feel what I was drawn into, and when I came to Ohio State, I took some number of classes. First year, you need to take some classes, and one of them was operating system. Anish was teaching it. I think it was operating system or distributed systems. I'm not sure. I think I think it was. I don't remember, but it could be operating system. But Anish was teaching it more like
Mhm.
distributed systems, and I was like hooked. And I started working on a first paper on just a thing
Yeah,
that.
but say like it's very rare to know what you want like from your career, right? And I think that's also like
But I think you realize it when you see it. So it's
yeah, yeah.
look around.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but not a lot of students they get a chance to see it, right?
Yeah,
Like, what kind of research opportunities do we really have for undergraduates, right? They tend to be very limited, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, and quite frankly, like, I'm working at a small school, right? So we actually don't have that many undergraduates, and I was able to find really talented ones, right? Because kind of it's not a lot of them, and you kind of spot them, right? But I'm not sure if it would work the same like
I
in a
think
bigger
they also
school.
spot you. Come
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
they
yeah.
they
Of course,
they
yeah,
become the ones that are following the lecture with more
yeah,
intensity
yeah.
and asking questions, and then it works that way. Yeah,
Mm.
interesting. Okay, taste. So this taste, is it teachable or is it innate?
I think to some degree,
Hmm.
right? Just like I don't know, taste. In certain foods, right? Most people when they taste olives or artichokes for the first time, they hate them, right?
Hmm.
But if you keep, trying, maybe on the fifth or tenth time, you realize that well, that thing is actually pretty good,
Hmm.
right? And for some people it may take 5 times, for some people it may take 20, attempts, right? And some people may give up before they develop that taste.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. How do you balance like curiosity with some focus? After some time, you need the focus, but
Yeah.
does it make sense to be broad initially, look at different things, or does it make sense maybe to do something more hands-on just to get a taste on? Like you didn't develop with the music theory thing, but you got a taste of writing papers from that thing.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
more important to have something.
I got a taste of asking questions, right? And then like working towards the answers, right? So that was the big thing for me, right? Like
Mhm.
Having that hypothesis and
Mhm.
then trying things to get there, right? So like the process of reaching that goal was very important to me, right? Uh,
Okay, I actually be real here. I remember Anish, my advisor, talking about taste, and I was like, okay, taste, taste. What is this
yeah.
taste? And, I noticed gradually, okay, this is more tasteful. This is. Did I
Yeah.
talk about taste when we started working? Did it make you think, okay, I should pay more attention to developing my taste or something?
You didn't do it explicitly,
Mm-hmm.
right? But uh, I don't know. If you remember how we worked in Buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when we would meet
There,
and
there
work
was a lot
together.
of shouting involved. I think my
Yeah,
my the neighboring professors, one of them one day told me,
yeah,
"Why are you guys fighting all the time?"
yeah,
And
yeah. But that helps with taste,
yeah. Mhm.
right? Because like you can be passionate about something, I can be passionate about something, right? And we're trying to work through this together,
Mhm.
right? And I think that helps. Right. It's not just like working independently. Again, like if you work by yourself, you're not going to develop the taste because you're just most likely going to dig deeper into like one
Yeah.
place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think it has to rub onto you, right, from other people.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Questions. The art of asking questions. I think this is like this is related to abstraction. Like
Hmm.
I saw recently somebody going on a rant in a wrong way about something, and I was like, okay, this guy doesn't have abstractions. He's approaching this all the wrong way, and then he's as you said, being stuck in his ways because he's not able to abstract anything. So it was about, I don't want to reveal too much, but it was about um, taking something maybe more literally and getting drawn into implementation details and not appreciating the simplicity of oversimplifying things. If you look at
Yeah.
impossibility results or some even algorithms, they oversimplify everything to focus on the essence. And some people would criticize this, saying that,
Hmm.
oh, this is like not efficient, or this is like missing issue one, two, three. But it's solving the essence of like Paxos, right? It just so a weave stamp replication. It did replication with in-memory data, but it was overkill. I think the genius of Lamport was to abstract, 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 and as the simplest thing, find the consensus problem and solve it in a generalizable way. And as you have been telling me, like this also even applies for disaggregated architectures today. The way he defined
Yeah.
calls applies today. Like uh, to me, like okay, the questions, like it is very related to this skill of abstraction, which is at the core of distributed systems and many other things in CS, and I suspect also in other sciences. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, have you heard the people say that like no computer program is ever finished?
No computer program is ever finished. Yeah.
Like you can always write it better, right? Like no
Okay.
no software is ever finished. I
Sure,
shouldn't
sure.
say computer program. No software is ever finished,
And
right? That applies to the solutions, right? You can ask a question, right, and then solve it forever, right?
uh, oh,
Going into like nitty-gritty, tiny little details that maybe intellectually difficult, technically challenging, right? But may not have,
mm,
the significance, as a big picture, right? So like you
mm,
can always, like solve the problem like infinitely long, like in computer science, right? You can write the software forever. The question is, the question to this like questions versus answers, right, is how long should your answer be, right? Because that also kind of maybe balances your curiosity, and helps you develop taste, right? Because
Hold on.
you need to have the right taste in curiosity.
Like,
Right?
uh, like I recently heard this. It's very relevant. Like art is knowing when to stop. Like craft is knowing how to
Yeah,
work, and art is
yeah,
knowing when to stop. With that software thing also.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perfection. Like, and this comes from Ben Affleck. Can you believe it? Well, I search if it's somebody else's code, but looks like it's really abstraction is also
Yeah,
knowing when to stop,
yeah,
when
yeah,
to, you know,
yeah, yeah.
finding the right
Uh,
level of abstraction,
yeah.
and asking questions is also like that. What is the essence of this? How can I reframe? And sometimes a pivot turns a paper around. You had recently you had one with a recent paper that you published, right? Can you maybe talk about it? Do you want to
Uh,
talk about that or not? We could leave it.
which one? I think recently I've been taking a stab at a lot of papers that, in my opinion, overcomplicate things.
Like, I mean, one
Yeah,
theory I developed is sometimes it's about the framing, how to pitch it, and
yeah,
then something that reviewers were like, then they become really happy about it. And I think you
yeah,
did it recently with um, Paxos, Holy Paxos work.
yeah.
It's about different Paxos implementations versus first, if you try to pitch it with as different Paxos implementations and variance between them is not as interesting. Can you tell the rest of the story maybe? You will
Uh,
tell.
y- yeah, so we have this like we wrote this Holy Paxos paper, which by the way was rejected quite a few times before it got to that state, right? But you know, this paper um it was born out of us reading a paper and
And
saying,
again,
well,
curiosity.
yeah,
Again.
and saying, well, these people like solve this problem in a very complicated way, right?
Mhm,
It surely doesn't need to be that complicated,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And
Yeah.
then uh, like one paper is the Copilot's Paxos, that's like OSDI 2020, right?
Mhm,
And then another paper was only Paxos from Eurosys from 2022, right? And they solve different problems. They
mhm,
solve very different problems, right? Like Copilot's Paxos solves the problem of node slowdown. Like, can we build a state machine replication that tolerates slow nodes, like mask a machine being slow? And
mhm,
only Paxos solves the problem of tolerating interesting network partitions, like partial network partitions, where one machine may be disconnected from a subset of the cluster, but not all the nodes in the cluster.
mhm.
Right? Like very different problems,
Yeah.
um, right? But we pitched them as kind of one bigger ultimate problem, right? And that
Mhm.
problem is essentially making the state machine replication, Paxos-based state machine replication, more
Yeah.
predictable when the conditions are not right, right?
Uh,
So it's a very high level problem, right? Better performance, more predictable performance when the conditions are not right, right? But like these conditions are very different between these two sub-problems, right? In one case, it's a slow machine. In another case, it's a partial network partition, right?
mhm,
And we have this goal essentially of trying to make a simple multi-paxos protocol tolerate those different adverse conditions without the complications that these other papers introduced,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And solve this under this whole like umbrella of making things more predictable, because predictable things are good, right? It helps you with capacity planning, it helps you with the risks of metastable failures, right? So that's kind of the big picture we want to solve. Like that's where the solution tries to fit in, right? We want to make this state of the art from 1989 multi-paxos fit better in the context of more distributed systems, right? Make it easier to capacity plan, make it easier to slot into complicated systems and manage them, and have that performance predictability that doesn't cascade down to other components and whatnot. And we throw in a couple more other like smaller sub problems that change how unpredictable multi-access is, right?
Yeah.
So but I think that's a slightly different level of abstraction that you were maybe thinking about, right? This is
It's
about
right.
writing papers, right? We
Sure. I think
abstract
it is.
away our big vision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's about pivoting around a question. You asked a different question. If
yeah,
you consider a different
yeah.
question, you, um, have different results, different learnings from it. Yeah. Okay. Um, yeah, with questions, I think we are going to come back to questions in the courage again, but we can keep going. Okay, craft. Craft is basically most of research is boring. I guess if they do a movie about researchers, it would be them staring at screen, writing a lot of code, doing a lot of experiments and cursing and doing a lot of boring writing. Uh, responding to reviewer
How
feedback,
about taking walks, Murat?
taking walks. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, like we took walks in Buffalo to do research. We
Yeah.
took walks at Microsoft to work on
Yeah, yeah,
problems.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I write papers, I write proposals while taking a walk around the lake, like near my home. Right?
Mhm.
I compose things in my head. I take an hour and a half walk, right? Compose things in my head, and then I come home and I can write, for a couple hours about that, right? And that's my craft. That's my process, right? So like I think on my feet,
Mhm.
right? And it's yeah,
That's cool. Yeah, I think okay, I was talking about the boring parts which you have to do to build the thing, but
yeah,
for the creative part, yeah, walking helps, discussing with somebody helps. I find that I generate better ideas when I'm discussing with you, with
yeah.
others as well. But the mind likes to be lazy, so if you are alone, you will find something else to spend time on, fixing something
Yeah.
else or reading something else. But discussion brings good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were discussing very loudly, but that was helping. And other thing is my process is these days I don't walk that much. I'm still in Buffalo and it's getting colder. I'm not doing as good with long walks. I write longhand. Either I open an Emacs buffer and I just do a brain dump, writing things, having a conversation with myself basically on the text editor, or also longhand, like on a tablet. I also do
Mhm.
rewriting about asking questions and answering it. Uh, I think I'm lucky. I can entertain myself by reading a paper, arguing with a paper, and
Yeah.
if not else, arguing with myself, writing things down. Yeah, but good point. I didn't know you were still taking the walkthrough serious and
That's the most productive time, to be honest.
1 hour, 1 hour, and you could still keep the
One and a half
think
hours or
in
so.
your mind, but
Hmm.
are you doing are you forcing yourself to think, or are you just going and letting the idea settle? If
I don't
they
think I need to force myself to think. I just kind of it's a routine. Like I do it every day, like literally every day, right?
really
Yeah,
every day, 1 hour.
every day, every
Wow.
day. I wake up, have my breakfast, right? And then around 9:30,
Mhm.
9:30, I go outside, and I have a lake with like
Okay,
a
good.
trail
Pay
around.
attention for the traffic.
Yeah, well,
What I
yeah.
have to say.
Uh, And like I don't think I don't need to force myself into thinking because the thinking just comes. Like when I'm on that loop, right? Like walking around the lake, the thinking just comes.
Mm-hmm.
And I
But
will
do you go on a walk saying that today I'm going to think about this problem?
not necessarily.
Okay.
It's like sometimes, yeah, right. Sometimes, like I will go on a walk and say, well, I need to solve like this by this time, right? Like deadline. So I will start thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, like it can be like discussions that we had or papers that we read, and like, okay, I want to think more about that thing, and I just start thinking, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, and
Mhm.
and that's also the time when my students get text messages.
Okay, cool.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I should do more walking. Maybe also inside the
yeah,
house. My
yeah.
PhD mate Sandeep was doing a lot of walking in the halls, and I think yeah, there is a thing about physical movement and also questions. Like you have to, if you
Mhm.
ask yourself the question, your brain will find the answer. But if you don't ask the question, yeah, you won't get to the answers.
Yeah. And like another thing about taking the walk, right, is
Mm.
I actually find this like the least destructive, like the time is the least amount of distraction,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because like yeah, like the screens are away. I mean, I have my phone, and as I said, like I text my students when like, okay, I have this like thing that I've been thinking now, it's your thing to think about. But like mostly it's like a screen like off time, right? So there is nothing else to distract me, no other people to distract me,
Yeah.
right? So it is like a very focused time for me, right? And I think right now in the world we live in, like it's very hard to find focus time,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like even
Yes.
when you try to get like focus time at home, again, like the screens and other things and our like multi-tasked world, it gets in the way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I also like
right?
using my tablet,
Yeah.
and it's, I realize when I move away from the screen, my IQ.
Yeah, yeah.
Good point. Okay, community. Okay, I had written research happens in conversation, not isolation. Hmm, sometimes even conversation with yourself. And community is how you learn taste. I guess, yeah, we mentioned it. What
Yeah,
is
it
taste
rubs into you, right?
could be not tasteful for systems
Yeah.
and I also mentioned about people skills. What do you think? Like, I'm not saying managing up or something, and I think people who are in academia are doing it so they don't have to, you know, they don't have to collaborate with anybody. They can do their own damn business in the department and nobody will. But I think collaboration and not always, but yeah, I guess people tend to collaborate with the people that have similar tastes with them. And
Well, and there is a big difference, Murat, between collaboration and being in a hierarchical structure,
oh yeah,
right? So, like in academia, you will collaborate, but the hierarchy doesn't exist as much, right?
hmm
Versus like when you're in the industry, you're working for a company, right? You are a part of hierarchy, right? So you have to report to someone, you have managers and so on. And that creates a different mindset. So I wouldn't necessarily say that people go into academia because they don't want to interact with people. I think for a lot of them is that they don't want to interact with hierarchy.
yeah, in academia you can do your own thing. In industry you need to collaborate. And but the reverse side of the coin is people are more willing to collaborate in industry because it's not like sometimes things could be zero sum game in academia, right? If you have a really good idea, the question
Yeah.
is important. You want to execute on that yourself and keep it close to your chest. Whereas in industry, if you have a good idea and you need other people to help you execute on that, but then everybody gets benefit from that. It's like, I don't know. I found that in industry, people are more uh, easier to collaborate with.
Mm, so this, in my opinion, gets a little bit into a question of different hierarchy that exists in academia, right? Not the hierarchy of like who is your boss, but the
Mm,
hierarchy of uh, academia itself, right? Like the institutions and rankings and like trying to measure everything, right? H index and who is at the bigger, better school, who has more grant money and so on and so forth, right? And it kind of becomes like um, for the lack of better language, a pissing contest,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
And this is where this like I want to keep stuff to myself, comes in, right? Because if you are uh, like you are judged by those things, right? So you want to keep them to yourself,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
Your if you keep them to yourself, that may boost your H index, right? Or get you more funding money, or
Yeah.
whatever, right? But there is a good cure for that,
Mhm.
right? Um, if you don't have resources to carry out your ideas, right, you will
Yeah.
share them. And
Yeah.
you don't have the resources to carry out all of your ideas if you're working at a smaller school,
Mhm. Okay.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I tend to be very open about like the projects that we're working on, because you know I generate more ideas than we can try to tackle in my
Some
lab.
schools do it better. Like I think Berkeley has a good collaboration structure. They
Yeah.
have labs with a lot of professors working together.
Yeah. But again, like it's keeping it in house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, so in community, I also mentioned communication and like communication, both written and speaking is very important. I think I have seen people who it's about writing. You need to be a good writer if you like to share your research. And some again, this is like taste. Some people cultivate the writing skill. Some people are really averse to it, and that limits their career in research.
Hmm.
Do you notice this in your students as well?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
right? The communication
Yeah.
becomes a big
Uh,
barrier in
yeah.
their.
Writing is like Writing is the like one of the most difficult things, right?
Yeah.
So like even looking at this, let's say Holy Paxos paper, right, or another paper with the same student,
Mhm.
um, on yeah, like I don't know, like when some of them try to write, you
Mhm.
can like especially now you can like almost see the ChatGPT, right?
Mhm.
And I don't like
Mhm.
ChatGPT writing because it's
Mhm.
very circular, right?
Mhm.
It writes good sentences, but like if
Doesn't
you
have
generate a
taste.
lot, if you generate a lot of text with it, right, it's going to kind of read in a very circular manner, right? It will repeat 80% of the stuff in different words, like later down the so and when it comes to academic rights, and that's bad because we don't have the space. We want to be as clear and concise as possible, right? Two very very difficult things to accomplish,
Right.
right? So and having those tools, like it doesn't help develop writing skills, because these students, they will see that, oh, it reads great, right? It has good grammar, like
Even
it has
I
better
would
grammar than I can do.
say, even before ChatGPT, we had this
Yeah,
problem. It was called death by bullet point. Like
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, well,
the student seminars,
yeah,
students would prepare these PowerPoint things without
yeah,
understanding content, and then
yeah, yeah,
ramble on like 15 slides, 20 slides
yeah,
on something they don't understand, and it fails in the first question. So in the seminars, I said no presentation, PowerPoint presentation,
yeah,
Amazon style. Write the memo about your review of the paper, and then we
yeah,
discuss that way. But yeah.
yeah. So the big question is, um, like when we talk about PhD students, right? Nowadays, most of them don't end up going for a research-related positions,
Mhm.
right? They end up working for companies, maybe doing some research, right? Maybe, but it's not as public, right?
Yeah.
Very few end up in like research labs or like R&D positions or academia, right? Like
Mhm.
where the writing becomes like super public, right? So to what extent, like if a
Mhm.
student wants to go for this more industrial position, to what extent do you want to force them to learn? I mean, they still need to write, like no matter what, right? And writing is the tool. It's like it's the best tool for thinking,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
absolutely.
But to what extent you want the writing to be like academically polished?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the best tool for thinking, so you shouldn't offload it to ChatGPT, definitely.
Yeah,
Even in industry, the people who are clear writers also have a big advantage. So they are better communicators and they have big advantage. Yeah, cool. Courage and endurance, basically not following the flock, doing transformative work versus incremental work. Again, some taste in this, some craft in this, some clarity, asking the right questions in this. Um, but a lot of endurance also in this because, uh, and sometimes, sometimes you should be quitting, sometimes you shouldn't be quitting. When do you know how to quit and when do you know how
oh yeah,
not to quit?
oh yeah. Remember a retroscope?
Oh,
One of my first projects?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was like one of these examples, right, where um, uh, maybe the questions that were asked were not like very right questions.
Mm,
And maybe uh, it was one of these examples where I was just digging deeper instead of digging wider.
yeah, no, but I
Right.
still don't know why it doesn't get traction. I still think it's a good idea. I mean, traditional tracing is depth-wise, and
Yeah.
this microscope is
Yeah.
horizontal snapshots where you trace there. You
Yeah.
could go back and forth in this horizontal
Yeah.
snapshot.
But like the amount of effort that went into this,
Yeah, yeah,
right? The project was several 100,000 lines of code.
yeah.
Like I put a lot of work into this stuff, right? And at some point it was just, well, it like at some point it came down to asking questions again, right? I couldn't ask the question that was like very fundamental to like all of that work. And the question is, what can I do with this tool that the other tools could not, right? Like that's the question I asked, and I couldn't come up with a good answer, right? And at that point, I think the project was more or less abandoned because I didn't feel like spending more time digging it deeper because I couldn't find a
Yeah,
way to
yeah,
dig it
right,
wider.
right, right. Maybe MVCC and databases also have
Yeah,
this in some
yeah,
respect, and but this was doing more general for yeah. Maybe it's not the
yeah.
pitch was the problem. We
But
should.
but, but see, like when it comes to endurance, right? If we're talking about endurance, that was a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
And
no,
it was very difficult for me to cut it off and just say, okay, what
yeah,
is done, and I'm not working on it anymore because of this like investment that was already put in, right? And
yeah.
endurance is good, right? When you actually move it in the right direction. But it can be like a really bad thing again if you are not going in the right direction and seeing whether you go in the right direction or wrong direction. Again, maybe the question of taste, the
Mhm.
question of asking the right questions, having the right abstractions and so on, right?
Yeah.
So like you cannot complete the PhD without endurance, but endurance can also kill your PhD if you're not doing other things right.
Yeah. 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 It's better to have a couple yeah prongs for your research and also when you are working it's also good to have two projects so when you are stuck in one you could do some progress on the other one. I mean we haven't talked about the emotional parts like how with rejection how do you deal with what am I doing with my life? Feeling at 1 a.m. at lab, returning home, and
I honestly, I think you take it like way more personal even to this day than I do.
the dealing with the rejection letters.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do. I mean,
As a
I
student,
cannot. No, I cannot look at it for some time, and I also do like you do. I would just get pissed off first day, so I don't write anything. I don't even
yeah.
read because I would be too. I wouldn't be ready to. Yeah, except if there were some good points. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, as a graduate student, the rejections like were really hard,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's, I mean, graduate students have to experience that.
Mhm.
I don't think you're like getting your worth, of education if you don't get a lot of rejections.
Mhm.
Especially if you want a career in research field, academic or industrial research, right? But like as a student, I was taking these rejections way more personally.
Mhm.
Now, I'm like, well, it's a rejection. I'm not even gonna bother reading the reviews, to be honest, Murat. Like, I don't read the reviews anymore, at least not right away, right? I will tell the student, okay, it's your paper. Read the reviews, summarize what can we do better, um, and then talk to me in 3 days, right?
Uh-huh.
And I move on,
Uh-huh.
right? So like right now I deal with it in a much like better way. But yeah, I think you still kind of take it way too personal.
Mm. Yeah. So what skills do you think is most important for PhD when you are doing PhD? Is combination of skills or single skill you can, I don't know, singles, okay. Name three, maybe in order, but you get to name three. And could be people skills also. I mean, for people skills, like, do you need people skills for PhD? You need to get along with your advisor.
Yeah.
Mm. At least collaborate well, and maybe
Well,
some
well,
techniques as
well,
well. Yeah, let's
he,
talk about the people skills. What
yeah,
people
yeah.
skills do you need?
It's
Clear
not just
communication,
advisor.
clear communication, and say this again.
I,
You
I,
can't go
it,
that.
yeah,
So
it's not just advisor you need to get along with, though,
yeah.
right? Ideally, you want to build that collaboration network, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
want to work with other people, to kind of beef up your CV and whatnot. So, you know, people skills are important. Like I claim I'm horrible at them, but yeah, I think they are important.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay, so which skills? Name three skills important for PhD.
Skills or qualities?
Okay, go for qualities.
I need to think. I don't know.
Okay.
What do you have in mind?
I would say writing slash communication, having a, yeah, that's also related to clear thinking and maybe asking questions.
What about reading?
Critical
Reading,
thinking is very
reading
important.
is such a big skill, and we haven't touched on that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we are trying to teach people how they should be reading papers when we do these
Yeah.
weekly things. It's fun, like we start at 9 p.m. and uh, both of us are already tired, but when we are reading a paper, sometimes out of rage, sometimes out of interest and joy, it energizes us. We keep going for 2, 3 hours, and you have to read critically. I wrote in a Discord recently, like, you cannot offload the reading to ChatGPT. Sometimes, in a couple cases, when we did paper reading, I tried to cheat. I put it into ChatGPT, got a summary, maybe asked a couple more questions as well. So I think have a good understanding. When we read through it together, not related at all.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a lot of things is in the first of all between the lines, and secondly,
Hmm.
Ah, you have to immerse yourself to really understand the problem and omission error. You have to take your time. If you don't take 3 hours reading, immersing, and thinking about the paper, you don't relate it to things that you should be relating it. Often the insights when we are reading papers occur to us after hours,
Hmm.
well,
Yeah.
the third hour.
Well, also, like when we read the papers, right, we are very fresh and enthusiastic, reading like the abstract and introduction, right? And, we hypothesize a lot of things about the paper, right?
Yeah,
And part of our experience is then a lot of these hypotheses get broken in a non-interested way.
yeah, yeah.
Right, but that's also I think an important skill, right? Because like when we hypothesize about that paper without knowing how the authors approach, in a sense, you might as well be creating a different paper,
Yeah.
right?
And it
Because
also teaches you taste. You would say,
yeah,
I would do this differently. What is this guy doing solving the different problem? What
yeah,
is this
yeah,
guy doing trying to hide this? And yeah.
yeah. So see
It's like
again,
it's
like
like cats playing. Hey, they are learning how to hunt, and when you are reading, you are also playing. Learn to do your research. And I was a good reader. Even I think um, even start of my PhD, I would take on papers that I don't know nothing about with
yeah,
highlights, read very slowly. I remember protesting. It's not my advisor's reading group, but another professor's thing on distributed systems, and he said that you don't need to come having read the paper. The presenter is going to present, and we will discuss. Uh, it didn't work. And he said that then you do a, you know, quick reading, skim the paper, because when nobody reads, we don't have good discussion. And then
mhm.
I can't do skim reading. I have to read 5 hours into it. And then I had
Yeah,
all the things in memory to discuss, and I get frustrated when people hadn't read it and we didn't have good discussion. So I remember going to the professor's office in protest saying that you tell me, we will just do a brief reading,
yeah.
skimming, but it doesn't work that way. Either you fully read and commit or you don't read. This
Yeah,
doesn't.
but then again, Murat, look at the reviews we get for the papers, right?
Mm.
It does appear like a lot of them are skim reading. Um,
When you are in the PC, you see that everybody just submits the review at the last day. That's what,
day plus two.
yeah, that's wrong. And
Uh,
yeah,
so like in my mind, maybe the reading is like one of those like super critical
writing, reading,
skills.
arithmetic,
Uh, yeah,
coding, I guess. Yeah. The craft, yeah, it's
yeah,
the least maybe, because if you ask the right question, things will come, and it won't be fun if you are not, yeah, having fun and curious and doing it with others also, I guess. Mhm.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Um, yeah, like I don't know. Uh, Knowing when to stop
Hmm.
uh, is a critical skill.
Stop or quit? What do you mean?
Both, right?
Okay.
Because like as we discussed earlier, right? You can write the software forever, right?
Yeah,
So
I also noticed like some people get nerd sniped in the most inconsequential ways
yeah,
possible.
right.
Don't.
But if you know when to stop, where to stop, right? That also allows you to ask more questions, right? Actually ask questions at the higher level, right? Because the deeper you go, you can still be asking a lot of questions, but they will be, questions at that depth, right?
Yeah.
So if you know to stop or like, how to stop early, you can actually ask higher
Mm,
level questions,
yeah.
right? So if you ask higher level questions, you can, take your research in more directions, right?
Mm,
So So yeah, I'm not saying, knowing when to quit, right? But knowing when to stop and evaluate and
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
questions, right?
Right, right. It's metacognition. You
Yeah,
take a
yeah,
step back and you think
yeah,
about
yeah,
thinking. Am I thinking about the right things?
yeah.
I think you would have heard me say this a lot, right? So let's think more meta
Mm.
about this.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the skill we teach really well in school and like in undergraduate programs. We give students their assignments and we just expect them to carry on until the completion, right? They don't ask the questions about the assignments. Um,
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them are so used into having the assignments and projects so precisely defined that for them it's just like an algorithmic thing. They follow the thing step by step without thinking, right? Without stopping and asking questions.
Mhm,
Mm.
mhm,
As a researcher, yeah, like the ability to stop, right?
mhm,
And know when to stop, uh,
mhm,
to ask good questions, to see what directions to take next. Um, and again, like one of the possible directions is a no direction, right? Uh,
mhm,
saying, okay, this is done. I think I solved the problem at the level of depth or abstraction that is useful, and going deeper, maybe not worth it, right? Or at least not worth it from the research perspective, right?
correct.
The practitioners can pick the problem up and explore it deeper in their specific setting, right? But
Yeah.
from the
Mhm,
research perspective, yeah.
mhm,
So yeah, I would actually, call, I wouldn't, say it as, one, two, or three, but it's like one of the three.
mhm, mhm,
Like,
mhm,
very, yeah, knowing when to stop skill.
mhm. Yeah. Mm. Okay. Maybe should we stop here?
What are your top three? You said reading, I mean writing.
I
Other
think
two?
yeah, asking questions, I think,
Yeah.
and yeah, that meta thread, like mm, relating to others, and yeah, I don't know, and I don't know. I mean, sometimes conferences are tough. You go there in a top conference, but there are 500 people who are better than you, and that's demoralizing. Uh,
Mm,
that's also, I mean, then the papers, they are motivating. Well, in good conferences. Um, Recently, not very motivating, I must say.
ah,
And I think it's people. Like I think there is a lot to say about what you learn from your advisor in person, your advisor's advisor. I never learned lessons I learned from Mohammed Guda, Anish's advisor, when we worked on projects together, and Nancy Lynch and others as well. Um, I think I like the people aspect.
yeah.
Interesting, the people aspect, which is not talked too much. I also like the analyzing aspect about thinking different thoughts, like thinking something, and the heck part, like if you twist something slightly, it becomes much more interesting. And oh, okay, so there was this quote I came across recently and mentioned in my blog. Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think that nobody else has thought. Yeah, there is a lot of so challenging yourself to think differently about, well,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. And but yeah, but then you would have some taste and you like spend inappropriate amount of times writing, reading something which makes others say, "What are you doing with your time?"
Yeah.
It's like magic. Magicians basically put inordinate amount of time into a simple trick, and that makes it magical. Like most
Hmm.
of magic is explained by a lot of stupid time you put into the perfecting that trick. And yeah, that's the craft of it. Mm, what are some good researchers, you know? What are their qualities? Maybe that's I think like asking good questions. I think
Hmm.
that I would say that's the
Yeah, yeah.
questions. They don't
Well,
even need to write that.
again, it's a good skill, right? You ask the good questions at the right time in your project,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
So yeah.
And abstraction, clarifying things to say that okay, this is not essential complexity. This is an accidental complexity. We should be ignoring it and
Yeah, yeah.
developing that abstraction. I would say asking questions and abstracting because that also underlies the writing, reading parts, and even when to stop parts. Yeah, I think.
What are the bad qualities?
What are the bad qualities? Being too competitive, being too turf oriented, doing
Hmm.
too much incremental work, right? You see these people churn papers, but nobody cares because they are like incremental and have no taste. And they got papers, maybe good for them, that counts for tenure.
Yeah, yeah,
But you know those people. In academia, everybody knows everybody, and you
yeah.
don't have a good name for you. And being, uh, yeah, being sort of jerk that way. That's being jerk basically, being too much and not being able to be flexible and sometimes defend something out of not being flexible. Not because you should be entertaining multiple perspectives at the same time. You should have two conflicting ideas living in your brain at the
Hmm.
same time if you want to do research. And I think people who are more bureaucratic, they go
Yeah.
wrong.
So I have like this one, I guess pet peeve that like one thing that irritates me a lot, and I see it, or at least maybe pay attention to it more recently, right? And I just you know people do bad science,
Mhm,
right? So they may ask good questions and pose good hypothesis and start working towards the problem, but when it comes to the science part of computer science, evaluating those hypotheses, right? Checking like what are they doing? It almost like everyone is just trying to rig the experiments, rig the results in such a way that just makes them look good, right? And sometimes, sometimes on purpose, sometimes it just happens, right?
mhm,
Like sometimes people just don't know how to do the evaluations, how to set up the experiments to actually test their hypothesis, right? And
mhm,
again, like it's a hard skill that comes with experience, I suppose, right?
mhm,
Uh, but yeah, like I don't want to name the papers, right? But like I've seen or start paying attention to that like a lot more recently, where
yeah,
the experiments like sometimes it comes to the extreme, right? Where they make a hypothesis,
mhm,
they confirm this hypothesis, they make a hypothesis that is incorrect, they confirm it with incorrect evaluation, right? And then build a paper out of it.
yeah. I mean, if you had put that effort into good idea,
Yeah.
everybody would be better off with it, including yourself. And yeah, in the good old days, distributed systems, algorithms papers, they didn't need evaluation. They just,
Hmm.
this is the algorithm, and it's elegant, and you could see
Yeah.
it's good. And Um, even they would dispute the people who wrote the papers. I don't need it to write an evaluation. The
Yeah.
algorithm is so clear. Its trade-offs are clear. I mentioned it trade-off in discussion in English in the discussion section. What else would the evaluation bring on top of that?
Yeah.
Well, evaluation may unearth some unanticipated things if you do it in a real
Yeah.
system. And that's also useful. But the problem in today's publishing is there is this pressure to evaluate with even unrelated, like seven other protocols that happen to be in the area,
Yeah, yeah.
and to show that you beat them by a margin. And I don't know.
I mean, yeah, like that's that's part of this publishing game, right?
Mhm.
And I think everyone
It'd
wants
be
to be great.
refreshing to say that the guy evaluates and says that I was expecting it to fail
Yeah,
for this miserable, and it really fails for this miserably. Thank
yeah,
you. Now you taught me where I should be using this and where not to use it. And
yeah.
yeah, that's a good point. We are sometimes forgetting the science part because we are too, yeah, wrapped up in the publishing. And the publishing is really these days a real rat race. It's not good. It's not sustainable. I have been saying it's not sustainable for,
Mhm.
more than 10 years, but now I think more people are saying, and we will see.
Yeah, the question is, when the current peer review model is going to collapse on its own, right? Because like the amount of work that it requires, it just grows,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, but at least we have fun
Yeah.
writing papers, reading papers, and yeah, that's good. Cool. Bad researchers. Yeah, I think I would say not self-aware or cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Research papers also become more stylized. I like the simpler explanations. And unfortunately, sometimes when you give the simpler explanation, that means
Oh,
your
oh,
paper
oh, oh,
gets
oh.
rejected.
Okay, Murat, let me remind you, the original Paxos paper, okay?
Mm,
The one that
good
that
point.
is not very
Oh, okay.
not the made simple paper which no one understood. The one that is like the all about
Part-time
history.
parliament. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand he was having fun, but
Too much fun. And yeah. No, I didn't say you should be writing like informal.
yeah.
Or I said that sometimes like you could explain the ideas better if you're more
Mhm.
direct about it rather than trying to please the three reviewers about the novelty. My thing is maybe we are paying too much over-indexing on novelty. This novelty that.
Which, by the way, still doesn't really happen, right?
Mhm.
I mean, novelty is
You hide it. I mean, the papers hide it so that it
yeah,
looks.
yeah, and it's also like about what who are these three people reviewing your paper, right?
Yeah.
What's their background, right?
Mm,
So sometimes novelty is just bringing something over from one place to another and applying it, right? It's still novel. Sometimes novelty is yeah, like teaching someone, right?
mm,
How many Paxos papers we had, right? The entire premise of Raft was like, well, let's try to teach, consensus simpler, right? Whether they succeeded or not, that's a separate question, right? That's still a novel contribution, right? If no one understands the thing, teaching it better is novelty.
yeah. 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 Cool. Okay. Good.
Mhm.
Any last words, or do you want to pull this in another direction? Did we omit anything big? Y- Yeah, select a good advisor. That's important also. Like select somebody that you get along because
Yeah.
you're spending and make sure you are doing PhD for the right reasons. Maybe in the first year, shop around, find a good match.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like, yeah, a lot of PhD programs don't really make it that easy, right, to shop around. There's
Yeah,
like almost this like expectation that, once you admit it, you're like under the wing of someone,
yeah.
right? And that's not the case in other fields of science for that matter.
Really? I
Yeah. So like when my wife was doing her PhD, right? So and that's a common across like all the biomedical biology, at least biomedical PhDs. Um, the first year, or the half a year, yeah, I think she spent 9 months doing what's called rotations,
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
right? And you get to try three different labs, 3 months each,
Nice. Okay.
right? And then at the end of the
What do you do in rotation? Do you help out in
Oh
the
yeah,
lab?
yeah. You do little
You write
projects.
a paper with them or
It,
what?
it depends on your luck,
Hmm.
right? But you may contribute to like an experiment or do some experiment that will be published by someone. Then yeah, you are on a paper. So it's not a totally wasted time. You gain skills, hands-on skills, right? You reading, you're learning, but you are forced to try three different environments.
Hmm. Like, if you give a PhD student to a theory lab, what could the student do in 3 months?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it can work.
Mm.
Maybe they can give a chop size thing to the student.
Yeah, yeah.
And, why not? Why not?
So, but like we don't have that
Yeah,
practice, right?
I think we have. I can have a whole rant about how the PhD needs to be restructured. Like we get PhD students, we don't give them any orientation. Like when you join a
Yeah.
company, what happens in the first month, Aleksey? What happens when you join a company in the first month?
Okay, Murat, don't ask me about Microsoft. I was sneaking in on campus for two
Yeah,
months
yeah.
without
Okay.
an
No,
ID. Okay.
right. You get a lot of onboarding. You get a lot of
Yeah.
onboarding. You
Yeah.
get to learn about company system.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon had these processes. It's like 20 task or 30 task. Meet three people in your group. Meet three
Yeah.
people in
Yeah.
different groups. You know, take this tutorial, take that tutorial, and I don't know. It's a whole bunch of things, and that's how that's you need the onboarding process. And I notice when we bring on PhD students, there is no onboarding process. If they are lucky, there is a first year a seminar class where
hmm
they talk about, oh, this is how you write papers. This
which they forget like
yeah,
right away
it's the
because like
presentation
yeah.
they will forget, and some professors come talk about their topics, but that's not a real orientation. What impressed me about the orientation more, I guess, like, uh, the
But but
tool.
but but but, but that Murat kind of carries over through like everything that we do in academia, right? You become a PhD student, you all of a sudden have to know how to be a PhD student from day one, right? And kind of learn as you go. You graduate, you become a faculty. No one asked you if you know how to
Teach, yeah.
PhD
Or
students or be on these committees and do this and that, right? But all of a sudden the expectation is, you just can't, right?
I think
So
when I took the onboarding, I was like, it's almost they are trying to make you succeed, which was a foreign concept if you are in academia, right? They throw you if you swim or sink.
yeah, yeah,
We have the PhD thing wrong. Like rotation is a good thing. Having extensive onboarding, trying to teach them how to read papers, how to
yeah,
write
yeah.
explicitly. I don't know. And
You know what was really fun and interesting? Well, fun, interesting about like my wife's PhD program in biomedical, right? So their onboarding,
mm,
every new PhD student,
mm,
when they join,
mm,
they have to be in the same class. And I'm not talking about like a seminar. It's a 12 credit semester long class. It's only one class that they take for the entire semester.
mm. Interesting.
And this is like a crash course of all the basic biomedical like biology related stuff. where they have different faculty give different lectures like
Right.
every day. But like, again, like it's a 12 credit class, right? So it's one class that is like four classes. So you'd have one faculty for 1 or 2 week given this like whole module on this like big thing, right? And then another faculty, and then another faculty, and then another faculty, right? And it is very brutal, like
Yeah.
the amount of stuff they just take and try to put it into your head. Now, for their excuse, of course, you come in with an undergraduate in biology, so a lot of the stuff you should kind of know, right? So,
Mm.
but
Mm.
what it also did is like they it made them suffer. Like it was difficult, right? It made them suffer as a group, right? It made them suffer collectively. And
Right.
like these people, like my wife, even though they all went to different labs, my wife, she still talks to them.
Oh, that's very good. It's almost like boot camp, and
Yeah.
that also. re-
And they exposed to faculty, right? Because like different faculty were teaching different like week-long or 2 week-long
Yeah,
segments. So they
yeah,
actually get to interact with a good chunk of faculty, like straight
yeah,
away in like this first semester, they just exposed to them, right?
yeah. I think,
So
yeah, I think we are doing things very wrong. That we should have better onboarding. People don't even know what's the goal
yeah,
of PhD to advance
yeah,
human knowledge in some small, very small part.
yeah,
First of all, you need to train, learn to that thing, and then make a little bump there.
yeah.
That's your PhD, and you need to write papers. We don't tell this to PhD students when they join. What is research? What is original work? And we should also be giving more hands-on work. I really like that kind of rotation, and we should teach them like shipping something weekly. Could be
Yeah.
blog posts, but getting them into the habit of shipping. And like companies do this better because they are paying you, so they don't want to waste
Mhm.
your time. They want to make you as productive as possible. They up level you as you go through your orientation. And yeah, we are failing students in PhD, in CS. I don't know about other things.
Yeah.
Probably math is also bad from the, but I don't know about the others. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like my experience ends at what I know from me and my wife, right? So two different PhDs in two different, very different fields. Yeah.
Mm.
And again, like hers was brutal, right? For um uh like the
No, that's
first,
good.
yeah,
Fail fast instead
yeah,
of
yeah,
having wasted because we don't have checks. If
yeah,
we are lucky, we would raise a red flag after 3 years. Oh, this guy has been in 3 years. Who's his advisor? Did he find an advisor? Did he
yeah,
publish a paper? The advisor, just to keep him, may say that, he's doing good. He doesn't remember. He gets one
yeah,
more year, 4 years, nothing. And then you say, okay, what is this guy doing? And four wasted.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do PhD if you are really passionate about it and if you find a good fit.
Yeah, and if you want to again like be broken in one way, it breaks.
Maybe.
I mean, like
Mhm.
it changes the way you think, right? Like on a
Sure. Oh, yeah.
structural level, it
I mean,
changes
it
the way you
challenges
approach
you.
problems. Change
Sure.
like and once you changed, once your thinking pattern is changed, right? You've been like broken and reassembled into something else. Um, I mean, I want to think it's something else that's better, someone else who is better, right? I want to think that I approach problems and challenges in a more structured and logical way,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? But yeah, it is the reassembling of how you think.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Are you able to think about anything we could else add here for research, for PhD? Mm,
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
I think we also getting tired. It's yeah.
Huh?
We're also getting tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Alex, it sounds
Yeah.
good. Then
Mhm.
take care.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.